they done any more work?
They came back and they were insulating some of the pipes in the boiler room, so they'd be back, a month or two when the thermostats wrap it up.
Have you done any idea on what they would call hardly probably because of the snow and stuff, but do they have any idea of the returns from switching that boiler up?
Probably take a little while to get some real numbers out. Hopefully it's good. I mean, the other issue here is, a lot of savings is going to come in the form of those thermostats turning down the heat overnight. That just hasn't happened yet.
But even electricity versus propane should be a big difference.
See, because last year we were at double the cost of propane was twice as much last year.
Well, that's what I mean, I'm thinking.
I'm saying like this year our new contract for propane is half as much as last year.
Oh, yeah.
We're paying $1 a liter or whatever, and now we're paying 50 cents. We'll do some kind of analysis.
Yeah, then just gotta look at the what it was when we said we were gonna do. I know we haven't gone with that too, like we turn on our products, but well, prices have changed so much
I think it's going to be better. Just obviously, because it's greater, it takes less manpower to watch it. This electrical. So we're not doing overtime calls when we did anymore. That's just dropped right off. Yeah, I'd like to see the numbers on it. Once we have the bid in January, we'll have a couple months of comparables for.
Well, it'd be nice to kind of talk about it.
I agree. Jen, are you ready to go?
Yep.
Hi, Andrea. It's Graham here at the town. We're just going to get started shortly, and we'll call on you when it's your turn up.
Alrighty, I have 6 o'clock Apple time, so we'll call the meeting to order, please. Should be a resolution to adopt the agenda.
Resolution number 2021-001, moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Ward, be resolved that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Question, all those in favor? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes.
Resolution number 2021-002, moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Ward, be resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting in the committee of the whole on December 14th, 2020 be hereby approved and all statutory declarations have been complied with.
Question, all those in favor? It's carried. Citizens period. I see the Kelsey Conservation District watershed presentation is on the agenda.
It is indeed. So we've got Lacey and Andrea out of the Winnipeg office representing the province on the phone here. We've got Sean and Heather, correct? The office manager Heather from the local chapter here to provide a little information, ask questions, or answer questions for you guys. Just tailoring our review.
Please, why don't you folks step forward so we can hear you better.
I think we're going to start with the
Hi, Lacey and Andrea. Did you want to get started?
Sure, sounds good. So I'm pretty sad that I wasn't able to come up in person, recognizing some of the travel restrictions. So thanks for allowing us the option to call in. I'm Andrea McLean. I'm the acting manager of Watershed Districts and Programs, so work with agricultural resource development. So I'll turn it over to Lacey and she can take you through the background and the proposal, and then we can probably turn it over to back to Sean and Heather to talk more specifically about what they offer locally. And then hopefully if you have any questions between the four of us, we can try and answer them as best we can. Okay, I'll start with reviewing a couple of the sections within the expansion proposal. So the mandate of the watershed districts, their mandate is to enhance healthy and sustainable watersheds through land and water stewardship programs and partnerships. Watershed district boards are responsible for planning and management decisions to improve watershed health. So under the authority of the Water Protection Act, watershed districts play a lead role in the development and implementation of integrated watershed management plans in Manitoba. Watershed management plans provide a decision-making framework for the protection, restoration, and management of water ecosystems and drinking water sources. And the Kelsey Watershed District will continue to implement the actions within their integrated watershed management plan. So I just wanted to touch a bit on the sub-districts and the board composition. So that's page 5 of the expansion proposal. Just if there was any specific questions that comes out of these sections. So I'll go over the sub-district composition and the financial considerations as well. So the Kelsey Watershed District Board is responsible for the overall governance of the district's programs and financial affairs. The board employs staff to deliver district programming and projects that align with the local priorities. The town of The Pod joins the Kelsey Watershed District. The district will operate within sub-district committees. So sub-districts ensure local representation across the watershed. And page 4 there's a map. Figure 1 kind of shows how the districts are broken down. And it also shows like an overview of the Kelsey water system. So the purpose of the sub-district committees is to identify local programming priorities. And so as part of the Kelsey Watershed District, the town of The Paw would appoint 2 members to the Paw Gulf Island sub-district. And each sub-district committee selects a chair and a vice chair. And so the sub-district chair sits on the main Kelsey Watershed District Board. So that's kind of an overview of the sub-district and the board composition. So financial considerations on page 7. I'll just kind of take you through that briefly as well. The watershed districts receive core funding from the province of Manitoba and member municipalities for district operating and programming. The province provides an annual grant to districts, which municipal members are required to match on a 3-1 basis. So what that means is for every $3 provided by the province, member municipalities are required to match a minimum of $1. So the previous provincial grant to the Kelsey Watershed District was $165,000. So that's summarized on table 3 on page 9 there. So if the town of The Paw decided to join the district, the total provincial grant to the district would be $188,000. And that table as well kind of shows a breakdown of what the proposed budget and kind of where some of that funding goes to. So that means the province will provide an additional $33,000 in funding to the Kelsey Watershed District. And it's going to touch a little bit on some of the background on the calculation of municipal contributions. So the table 2 there kind of shows the breakdown and how the levy would be calculated. So it's proposed that the Kelsey Watershed District would use the apportionment approach to collect levies from municipal members. So apportionment is where there's a predetermined percentage that's applied to each municipality through their establishment regulations. So that would be written into the regulation. And then on table 2 on page 8 there, this proposal puts forth a apportionment rate of 17% for the town of The Paw. So that means if the town decided to join the Kelsey Watershed District, the estimated levy would be $11,196. So this cost-shared funding is used for core operations of the district and the implementation of local watershed management plan projects that improve the health and sustainability of land and water resources within the district boundaries. And other towns and cities within the watershed districts in Manitoba that have benefited from participating in the watershed district program through protection of drinking water sources, protection and restoration of riparian habitats in the watershed that ensure higher quality of water in streams and rivers in the watershed, as well as watershed education programs. So is there any questions? I'm going to do that pretty quick, but is there any questions specifically on the expansion proposal?
Council, have any questions yet?
Is the Saskatchewan River included in this? Is the Saskatchewan River not a federal waterways?
Lacey, I'm not sure if you caught that. Councillor Ward had said the Saskatchewan River is included in the proposal. Is it not part of a federal waterway?
So the proposal for like the whole watershed, so it'd be the area within like figure 1 there shows the bounds, like the watershed district boundary. Andrea, do you know anything specifically about? Yeah, so I think when we consider watershed districts in areas, there are federal waterways within the watershed. But thinking, Red River, right? So we have watershed districts that do work in watersheds that feed into the Red River system and along the side of the Red River system. So there's no authority or the regulatory authority to the watershed districts program. It's merely a volunteer participation by municipalities, and really what they're there to do is incentive-based programming. So if there's something that a municipality is required to do by regulation, that's not a project the watershed do. If it's a project that a municipality wants to enhance and make better, then that would be something like go above and beyond the regulations, and that's kind of the side that the watershed districts would work on. And then couple that with offering local incentives to do watershed-based programming. So that could be offering and working with a producer to put in an off-site watering system or fencing off a river to ensure that the cattle aren't going into the stream to protect any source water or water quality issues, address any water quality issues. Specifically in towns, there have been instances where districts have worked with towns to maybe run education programs for sure. Other things include rain barrels, offering composters, and I would probably direct it more to Heather and Sean on what they think would benefit locally. Does that help answer the question about the federal piece?
Well, the Saskatchewan River is our main water body here, and it's a federal waterway. And we have contributaries that come in, like the Carrot River and stuff like that. So wonder just how the two work together, that's all. Maybe Sean can fill us in on that.
Yeah, we've never even considered whether or not it's federal or provincial. If all of the work that we do is on, somebody owns the land, either it's privately owned or it's crown lease land along the Carrot River. So in the past, provincial or federal, if there's cows going into the river and they're degrading the shoreline, then we would go in and we would provide funding to that farmer to put a fence up and keep the cows out. And then we would put in an alternate watering system, so a solar watering system, so that cattle can still drink, but they're not having a negative impact on the river. And I think one of the advantages to the town of Paw is that everything that we've done in the past, all of our projects have had a direct or an indirect benefit to residents of the Paw, because we all get our drinking water from the Saskatchewan River. So everything that we can do, there's a benefit to the water quality. So federal, provincial, I've never heard it discussed before. If we see an issue on the land and if we can develop a program to address it, then that's what we do.
Hi, it's Herb. My question has to do with the other end of the spectrum. So the town of Bob, our sewage heads to the lagoon, which dissipates into Grace Lake, which heads into the Saskatchewan River. How does that fit into this?
You know, we knew you were going to mention that. And that's kind of beyond mine and Heather's league. And we'll probably get Andrea to address that. So maybe, Graham, you could repeat that question to Andrea.
Yeah,
we have a canned answer for you.
Yeah. Sir, Andrew, I don't know if you caught that question from her?
Yeah, I did. So that kind of speaks to that regulatory piece I was just speaking about. So where there's a regulatory requirement, so say for example, I don't know your specific situation, but if there had to be an upgrade to your sewage treatment plant or your sewage treatment in itself, and there was a regulation for government driving you to meet a certain standard, that's not where the watershed district would come in. Where the watershed district would come in would be, say for example, you want to put in a tertiary system, so a system that even makes it better than the minimum standard. That would be somewhere where you could work with the watershed district and try and develop that extra on top of kind of approach to the management of your sewage lagoon. So not knowing the specifics of the concerns of the area and the requirements, the regulatory requirements, it did all depend.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the situation puts us at odds or in conflict of any sort. Because some would argue the effluent discharge isn't a very well-meaning intention for the water.
There'd be no conflict there.
No conflict
Yeah.
there. That was my concern.
No, we're not gonna be butting heads with you guys about the effluent charges. No.
One of the, just for background, one of the batches we did more recently, and I say more recently in the past like 6 years, was bringing on the city of Brandon to the program. And the concern there was, Brandon always saw them as not being part of the program because they were rural. They didn't have producers to work with partners with. When they participated in the watershed management planning process, they saw the need to work together as a watershed. So bringing municipalities together to work together on that watershed basis. And then in addition to that, when they came on, they asked to actually contribute a bit more so that they could do work upstream to offset some of the impacts that they were doing to the river, maybe downstream as a result of their sewage treatment plant. So there is kind of that good, it's not at odds. If you're dealing with a province on a regulatory issue and impact to the environment, that's separate from the watershed district program. But it does look good to your ratepayers, if you are impacting the environment, you're also doing this other incentive program that could help the environment in a different way.
Thank you. Any other questions? Carrie?
I have a question. Excuse me. It's in regards to the minimum levy. That is, so for the $10,653 possible amount, that's based off of a grant. So next year, if there isn't a grant, how will that number, or will that number fluctuate?
I don't know if you heard that one because I don't know if there's a microphone over there. Councillor Atkinson had asked, based on this 3-to-1 funding, how permanent is this 3-to-1 funding arrangement? And, if it in the future is the province backs out of this, what is the obligation, I guess, on the town to continue this arrangement?
So as a typical government person, I can't guarantee funding every year. That being said, this program has been running for over 50 years. And in the last 20, 30 years, the 3-to-1 basis has been in place. We recently did significant program modernization, so we changed the name of the program from Conservation Districts to Watershed Districts. Moved a bunch of the programs down in the south area to Watershed, or a bunch of the districts to Watershed, sorry, and realigned their boundaries. The other piece is districts have been labeled to deliver a major government priority, and that's called growing outcomes in watersheds. So that's working with the agricultural community to do more of this type of work and actually operate more incentives behind it. So there's a whole separate trust, which is really complicated, but essentially there's more funding externally there. So that all being said, this year government actually increased the grant because they wanted to offer the Watershed District program to those municipalities that were on the list, and so that those watershed districts could work with any municipality that's possible to deliver this major government priority. So I think that speaks volumes to the recent elevation of the program within government, and the fact that watershed districts are delivering a major priority. I don't foresee any changes. That being said, I'm pretty low on the totem pole, so you'd have to ask my way up boss, Mr. Pallister, about that. But I think there's some comfort with the fact that watershed districts, conservation districts, this program's been around for 50 years, and the 3-to-1 funding hasn't changed. We went through the modernization, and there was no appetite to change that 3-to-1 funding arrangement.
One more question.
Yeah, hi, it's Andre Murphy, and I'll apologize up front that I don't know a lot about watershed, but I guess a simple question for me is what would be so if we don't go in it, what's the difference if the PAW doesn't join, or what's the value for, I see this as an agriculture type of activity right now. I don't see the municipality connection.
So I'll let Sean and Heather answer the specifics of what the district could offer the town of La Paz. But I think program-wise, when we work with other towns and getting them to work and understand watershed movement, watershed management, there's a value in an education side of things there. There's a number of programs that districts could offer to their urban areas, and that's actually one thing of the program that we're focusing on in the next couple of years is ways to offer programming even within urban areas. So I'll maybe just turn it over to Sean. I think he's got a few ideas of what kind of programs could be offered in the urban areas.
I think there's a whole host of different programs. Right now, all of the work that we do within the Arnold Kelsey, we really don't do much in the town of La Paz because there's no funding coming from there. Other than our school programs, we're in schools pretty regular talking about environmental things. But some of the things that we could offer in town, we could, just quickly, we could do a composting program where, everybody in town, maybe not everybody, we could have, if you wanted to buy a composter, you could get a composter, your funding can go to buy composters for home use. And I think that's really cool. It's a good thing to do, and it'll also reduce the amount of garbage going to the dump because people will be home composting. Maybe at the landfill, we could do another. I don't know if you guys have now, whether it's like an actual you have a composting bins or composting bays where people can dump their leaves and their garbage or whatever. Funding for that would be, I think that would qualify through this. We've talked about having green teams and green team students in the town of the Pas. You know, they could be hired and they could be dedicated to cleaning up the waterfront. You know, we have Devon Park here, it's a gem, and you know, it'd be great if we could dedicate some people just to keeping it clean for a few months in the summertime. Shoreline stabilization along the Saskatchewan River. A few years ago, a number of years ago, at Devon Park, there's another bunch of shoreline stabilization work done there. That's something that would fall underneath the conservation district, and that would be a huge budget, but you know, external funding that we could lever that maybe other organizations couldn't, we could lever it. And anything that's being done now through the town with an environmental spin to it, it could be tied into our program. Tree planting, we could do tree planting along the walking path, boulevards. And that's just kind of
Also, just going to add, one of the successes, or something I've noticed over the years of being involved in the program, is you get, as a municipality, you get what you put into the program. So those representatives that sit on the sub-district, they're there to locally drive what the watershed district does. So they're bringing projects forward, they're bringing ideas forward, or even bringing concerns forward, and then Heather and Sean can work their magic in terms of trying to find some solutions within their mandate. Often when we have had municipalities maybe upset and talking about getting out of the program, typically it's because they have a sub-district member that's not very well engaged and not bringing those concerns of council to the forefront of the district. So Sean and Heather can work their magic only as much as that communication happens.
Another question?
Only one. Is there a certain timeline to, per se, buy into? Or can you exit after, say,
That's a question for those ladies.
Sorry, I don't know if you caught that. Is there a commitment period before you can exit if we do decide to join?
So if you do decide to join and pass a resolution accepting this proposal, there is a requirement of a regulation change. If at some point you want to get out of the program, then you would pass a resolution to ask to leave the program, and there is a timeline. So after 18 months, you would be considered not part of the program.
Other question?
Sean, just a question to Sean. How does this tie in with Ducks Unlimited?
It doesn't.
It doesn't at all?
No. That's the shortest answer there is. We're not connected to Ducks Unlimited in any way at all.
Any other questions? Nope, everybody's good? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, and if you guys have questions, give us a call or an email, and be happy to answer them for you.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate the information.
And David Lacey, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye now.
Thanks.
Alrighty, moving right along. Bylaws, 5.1, organization.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ward. Be it resolved, bylaw number 4608, being a bylaw of the town of Pas to govern the organization of the town of Pas and the committees thereof, and to repeal bylaw number 4602, be read as second.
Alrighty, question. All those in favor? Carried. Next one.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Ward. Be it resolved that bylaw number 4608, being a bylaw of the town of Pas to govern the organization of the town of Pas and the committees thereof,
Councillor Murphy.
Yes.
Councillor Ward.
Yes.
Councillor Atkinson.
Aye.
Councillor Zelinski.
Aye.
Myself is yes. Councillor Forster.
Yes.
Councillor Lane.
Yes.
So it is carried. Alrighty. 5.2.
Resolution number 2021-005, moved by myself, second by Councilor Forrester. Resolved that the bylaw 4609, being the bylaw of the town of the Paw, to repeal the bylaw number 4464, be read for the first time. And this is on the shopping, is it?
Yep.
Yes.
So that's consistent with the changes the province made in regards to Sunday shopping.
Yes.
All those in favor? Okay. All the way down to finance and administration. Resolution, Bureau of Accounts.
Resolution number 2021-006, moved by myself, second by Councilor Forrester. Resolved that council authorize the following accounts. Pay period number 26, the amount of $100,652.80. Payroll number 1 in the amount of $91,000.11. General checks number 25693 to 2577, 25735 to 25792, and 25794 to 25812, in the amount of $329,128.72. EFTs in the amount of $759,572.57.
Alrighty. Were there any questions on the check disbursements? Carrie?
For excellence. Who's that?
That's Karen Dryger's going to do
Thank you.
A curiosity question, ProTech scale, what do they do?
they were fixing the duct scale. There's
Oh,
some
okay.
problems with the display and so that,
No, I just kind of,
This is what we were going to be done often.
Yeah, I know.
It's been a while, so we broke it for a while.
Daniel Trucking?
That's the Jetstone from here.
Ah. Any other questions? Alrighty, question. All those in favor? That's carried. 6.2.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Atkinson, we resolve that council authorize the following accounts, general check number 2734 and 25793, amount of $864.05.
Alrighty, question. All those in favor? Abstained? Carried. Policy GG 117.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Atkinson, we resolve the council adopt amended policy GG 117, replying to public inquiries, complaints as per attached, and I do believe the main areas that were adopted were requests required to keep confidential, the request required to stipulate which parties information will be shared with, as well as we will not be dealing with issues that have gone through social media versus complaints through there.
I believe this was me too. Alrighty. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? It's carried. Canadian Borders, what's this, right?
Oh, tax sales.
I'm sorry? Oh, tax sales, 644, there we go. Who's got that one?
resolution number 2021-009, moved by myself, second by Councillor Murphy. Whereas section 3652 of the Municipal Act provides that council may in any year designate the immediately preceding year or any earlier year as the year for which properties, the taxes in respect of which are in arrears for the year, but must be offered for sale by auction to recover the tax arrears and costs. Be it resolved that the designated year for which properties in arrears be offered for sale by auction be 2021, meaning all properties with outstanding taxes from the year 2019 or prior. And be it further resolved that in accordance with section 3631 of the Municipal Act, cost shall be the actual cost incurred by the municipality for each parcel listed for the tax sale plus an administration fee of $50 per roll as set forth in Manitoba Regulations 50/97. And be it further resolved that the 2021 tax sale be held on November 10th, 2021 at 2 p.m. at the Town of the Paw, 81 Edwards Avenue in Council Chambers. And be it further resolved that council place a reserve bid on tax sale properties in the amount of the tax arrears and associated costs in regards to the 2021 tax sale. Be it further resolved that council appoint the chief administrator officer as the designated officer for the 2021 tax sale.
I would think it would be more ready with all that, yeah.
Can you read the warrant?
Yeah. So this is just setting the tax sale date, basically.
This is just housekeeping. I mean, we skipped last year, but this is just back in the regular.
Okay. Questions? All those in favor? Carried. Now we'll do committee reports. Museum board.
No reports since the last one. We have a meeting tomorrow at 6.
Chamber of Commerce.
We had a chamber meeting last week, I think on the January the 6th. January 6th or January 4th, one of those days. Really setting up committees with the new executive and setting some goals for 2021, as well as putting together the budget for the year and making sure everything's in line. Next meeting is for January 21st.
CDC.
CDC continues to plug along there, so the Shop Local campaign through the holiday was pretty successful, and they were able to apply for other grants with the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce and such. Tourism branding, place branding continues to go, so they did receive the $20,000 grant from Travel Manitoba to get the framework quickly implemented. And so they're developing a website right now, they're hiring photographers and doing all the touristy stuff. And they're also working with the Chamber of Commerce Tourism Committee to ensure that there's alignment and not a duplication of efforts. They're also looking at, they're researching all the CDCs out there in the world, and there's a big list of ones that have been looked at already. So Jackie will summarize that report and share that information with us in the next month or so. And then the last thing, the big one is the housing. So the Anhart's presenting to council next council meeting, January 25th. They've got some other potential grant streams that they want to partner with, and they'll be available to answer any questions that night from council. And our next meeting is set up for Friday, virtual.
The grant from Travel Manitoba, did CDC receive the money, the $20,000?
I'm seeing it says that she received the $20,000 grant from Travel Manitoba.
Destination marketing.
No meeting, we have to meet tomorrow at 2.
Is that committee established? Is it formalized? Is that official? So who's on it?
There's myself,
Trustee Cotton.
Chelsea Paddock, David Noble, Andrew Essen, and Ken Wade.
Okay. So there's room for 7? Is it 7?
Yes. Yes.
So did the letter go out to the hoteliers?
That I don't know. It was discussed, and I don't know if it did go.
Because it's in the bylaw, hotelier being on the board.
Yes.
So do we plan to invite a hotelier?
For sure, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I will make sure that that's on the agenda.
And then the 7th spot that's missing, who would that be? I don't know.
There was, I believe that it's a Trappers Festival member.
Okay, and who would be the coordinators? Would he?
Not sure. I can answer this question.
Who's chair now?
David. Plus his sister.
I provided a copy of their, document that they have. Sure, they'll have who's on that board in the past, so should be able to follow on that.
So, more to come.
More to come.
Cedar Lake.
We haven't had any formal meetings due to everybody who sits on the board are from other communities. There has been correspondence that goes back and forth through emails. I've brought some correspondence, and I've also forwarded it to Graham and Jim, or just Graham. It's just in regards to Intro to Word and Excel, and also Zoom training. Both of them are free, being offered. There's sign-up dates and, yeah, there's sign-up dates, sorry. And the deadlines, I think, are within the next week and a half. We'll be having a meeting January the 28th. That will be a dialogue meeting.
Recycling board. When's the next one?
End of the month, and it's scheduled for.
How's that going?
It's going. There's been a few things that have been going on in the background in terms of getting the recycling center on with OCN's landfill study, the recycling portion of it. And there's been some contact between the engineering firm and Marge, but I don't know what's all coming.
So when will the residents of the town of the Pond be able to take recycling out to the center?
That I don't.
That'll come up in the next week, because there's been a fair amount of complaints on the drop-off. So it'll be brought up in the next week.
As well as the RM,
Yeah, there's lots of.
anybody, businesses as well.
And the reasoning, like originally, I think I bring up, I was kind of confused because it said, and I think you had said it, that was just, that wasn't really the real reason, it just said because of COVID and no contact, which you never ever, I just throw it in the bin anyway, I never talked to anybody.
This suggestion was put forward to have the drop-off stuff and to reduce the curbside, and the manager kind of took it upon herself and did it the other way, closed it up. So it's a subject that's going to come up at the next meeting, something that certainly has to be dealt with.
So is the amount of recycling out there just becoming overwhelming, in and around the area?
It was, the cardboard was like astronomical, and they had to change things around. They've done some of that, and they've kind of cleaned up the whole place. It's kind of a little bit better, but it's still not working to capacity properly. I mean, they had trouble with shipping stuff out, trying to get a local yard body or whoever to haul stuff, but I talking to Mark, it seems like they've got that kind of figured out a bit better. So there's, there's talk of some new equipment. It's fairly expensive. It's about $250,000 to put in an automatic dealer. All that just pushes stuff in the lines.
Okay, so
So, like, some of the people I'm talking to, and myself, you know, the biggest issue is not being able to drop it off. So rather than like waiting for the next meeting, like is there, and I'm not trying to be funny or rude, but like, is there a reason why we can't drop it off tomorrow? Is there, like, I'm just kind of trying to get my head wrapped around why I can't bring out 5 bags. That would, like you just said, reduce the amount of pickup. The RM, I know, has been struggling in other areas where the trailer is there for a limited amount of time. At the same time, our dump, we say, is not, you know, it's full capacity, so I know people are just saying, well, I'm just gonna throw it in the bag and I'll just throw
And
it
that's,
to the
and
dump.
that's exactly what's happening. Like, a lot of the major contributors
Yeah,
are just hauling to the landfill right now because we can't move.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that has to be dealt with. And I'll phone her tomorrow and ask her.
Because again, maybe there's a real, like, really good reason, I think, but I just don't know. What was the reason?
It was COVID related, it was just at the start of, when things were really ramping up in the community, that was when the decision was put in place, I guess. That they
Is there interaction between the public and people of the
I don't really get too involved with the day-to-day operations, you know, it was kind of just a suggestion from the manager. I don't know, what do you know, I don't know what to tell her. She's the one, the boots on the ground, I guess, and just what she was saying.
I queried her at one point about this because things were getting pretty bad. There were a number of complaints. And I think her major concern was that she was getting too much garbage where nobody was there to check the bags, where the curbside pickup are leaving behind things that they don't want to take. And that seemed to be what she centered on in her reply back to me, where she's happy that the garbage levels have been going down and more manageable. So,
Yeah, but I don't think, sorry, but I don't think the amount of garbage has been reduced, it's just that your sheer volume has been reduced, so of course your amount of garbage is going to be reduced, so tomorrow if we allow drop-off, she will continue to get, I mean, that's a problem that's not going to be, I mean, that's like saying, don't put your paint cans in a garbage can, bring them to, don't put your battery in a garbage bag, we know people are unfortunately doing things like that, until we get a more modernized dump and things are gone, like it's gonna, so now our landfill is still going to be.
I don't disagree. But it's also my opinion as well. She had also mentioned some comments about her budget allocating for a staff person to be on site at the drop-off to manage what's going on, just to keep a better eye on it. Again, I have no idea what the quantity of garbage she's getting, and if it is truly unmanageable or not. I don't think we're charging them up fees, but maybe just in general, the sorting of the garbage is just out of control. Yeah, I'm not their leader, so I can't make that call, but
The facility is just too small.
I don't think it's a COVID-related issue. I think this is a garbage-related issue.
I think hiring a person might help, but I would say that 80% of the drop-offs are after 4 o'clock, if not more.
Well, they can have limited hours when they drop off, but still be better than nothing.
So we contribute 160,000 a year?
It depends. Shelley's costing some capital, and they don't necessarily use it. I think it's around 130 or 40.
140, right, that's right. So the town of La Pod doesn't run that facility, despite what many people think. We don't run it. So with the 140,000, and I think there'd be many who would say it might not be money well spent. What's the options? If we decided that we no longer wanted to be part of this scenario, what's the options? What could we do for the community for recycling with our 150,000 a year? Could we do a better job on a smaller scale?
Uncertain. We have to explore it, I guess. We're talking about, we'll talk about it again in committee of the whole in the garbage collection and landfill discussion, but I mean, it's something that we tie together. I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe I guess we can have a discussion about that, I can elaborate a little more all over it. But, I don't know the answer, because we haven't really looked at it. I think in general, the idea was we were going to be more effective as a group, through communities.
There's two
two members
representatives.
from each tribe community and then, maybe it's nine, maybe it's two from each community and then three citizens at one.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Is everybody happy the way it's going?
No, everybody is pondering what to do next, to change it, to make it better.
I think everybody recognizes that there are definitely some issues surrounding recycling in our community. But I think nobody knows the right way of going about how to fix the problems that are there. And the one thing that we were able to agree on was that we need some sort of engineering study to tell us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong and how do we fix it. And those were some of the steps that we took to reach out to we were going to look at doing our own engineering study, and then OCM reached out, and we're kind of piggybacking on their landfill study. So that's kind of where things are at.
So all the recycling centers, they're all provincial based. So they should all have the same guidelines, I would assume, on what can and can't be collected.
For sure, they do. They
So-
definitely do. And there's regulations on what can and can't be taken or what should and shouldn't be taken.
Right.
But they don't speak to how it's collected, how it's dealt with once it's collected. You know, there's a whole another set of issues besides just what is and isn't collected. We had passed a resolution at the last meeting, just saying that anything that has the Mobius symbol, the three arrows or whatever in the triangle, anything that has that symbol will be picked up, and then it'll be dealt with after that at the recycling center, just to make it easier for everybody. But you know, that's just one step, right? I don't know. There's a lot of issues there, but it's a mountain, for sure.
But does it need to be a mountain? Like if the town of the Quad decided to do our own thing, does it need to be a mountain?
That's just it. I don't like. I see where you're coming from. I don't want to disagree with you and say that yeah, I know they're doing a great job and we couldn't do any better, because I don't know that we could maybe put in some better processes and maybe make it better in the short term. But I don't know if in the long term if we get away from some of the issues that they're having now. So I don't know. I don't know what the correct answer is.
And again, with all due respect, right, because I've been a volunteer my entire adult life in this community, but with all due respect, this is some of the problems and challenges that happen when volunteers run businesses, right? Because sometimes the volunteer doesn't want to make a tough decision, right? We're just here to have a meeting and everybody get along. Thanks for coming. And I think this one has reached the point where I don't think volunteers should be running this anymore, right? Because we all have our own social media feeds. A hot topic of discussion in this community is recycling. People are not happy. So I'm not convinced that this is the right path at this time. And if it isn't the right path, well, what is? And perhaps it's the town of the Pod taking care of its own recycling. And instead of allocating the 140 or 150 a year to this organization, maybe we keep it in-house and we expand our service and travel down that path.
So, and maybe that is the right way to go, but if you look back to where we are now, I think some of the problems where we probably, or you guys can speak for, is trying to, send it away at the least amount possible, so you're not, and then it becomes the mountain created because, oh my God, we have nowhere left to put it because the entire place is filled with recycling. And then it's kind of hold the line because we can't keep up with the garbage. We haven't sorted thousands and thousands of bags of the stuff, and then the pressure's on versus getting rid of it as quickly as we possibly can. Maybe we pay $400 extra. We're paying $400 on the truck at the end of the day for what we're getting back. Maybe that's we caught our losses on that, but a truck of stuff left down the wall. And at the end of the day, the bottom line, and this is where I find it frustrating, is that I know it's capital versus the running money there. Our capital in terms of making things or buying things that can make that process quicker, faster, easier. Like, what's sitting in capital right now? Like, 100 and probably more than the operating budget itself, to make things kind of a little bit more, take the pressure off, whether it's a forklift or another backhoe or something, to do it. Like the sea cans were brought out, I think, to store some extra stuff. But now I think it's the overwhelming, whether it was COVID or not, it's probably like, hold the ship here because you can't get the truck in to back it up because there's so much stuff in the years. Right now, they have 4 employees.
Is that what the issue is that the truck can't get to it?
No, I'm just saying in terms of like, at one point in time when I went to drop off recycling, there wasn't a mental bin there because it was packed, the entire place was packed with stuff.
The one thing that I don't understand is if there's an issue with guard line, what that issue actually is. Because we have multiple trucking companies that come through town. And the majority of those trucking companies, they're going to be hauling back to Winnipeg empty. So just even arranging with backhauls.
That was one of the things that was talked about.
Got to reduce
was-
rate.
Yeah. One of the biggest problems there is just the sorting of the stuff that comes through, and it's all being hand sorted. And one of the other people sitting on the board came up with, and it's very costly to put in an air sorter that does like an automatic type machine. And that's where they are right now. Is that what cost do they go on? Another $1 million put into it to do anything or whatever. So do you put $1 million in there to do more, or do you switch it over to the town and the town do it with that? It's a struggle. It's a big struggle. It's a horrible struggle.
I think it was about 4 years ago, the market for recycling markets kind of fell apart. And we, as a community, the recycling center used to just send out everything just mixed down to Winnipeg, and then they would sort it down there. And the cost to do that went from, I think it was from $60 a ton or something. I don't even know what the measurement is, but $60, and then the price had tripled to $180. So that was when the decision was made to change back to sorting instead of just sending it down as a mix. And that's what got us where we are now.
Why aren't we asking the community to sort the recycling? So that when they get it, it's already sorted. We used to sort 10 years back.
And that was another thing that was brought up, was the educating the community by putting what is taken in with the water bill or something so that people knew exactly what to put in recycle.
That's been done.
But it's a complicated issue.
It is.
In some ways, because we have some very devout recyclers, and there's nothing more frustrating than thinking that this great big load of recycling is good to go, and then a good portion of it's left behind with nothing. It's just left behind. So then you start watching the Facebook feeds, and people are very upset, and they just take it to the dump, right? So this problem, it's a big problem, and I don't think one thing is going to fix it. I think you almost need to start from scratch. I agree with Trevor. The issue isn't money. These folks show a surplus every year. They've got money in their capital. The issue, I don't believe, is money. It's something else. And I truly wish we could get it sorted out, because it's a very important issue for some people.
And maybe one of the things you could do in the short term, if you're not to do it, send 2 trucks down mix. 2 trucks down mix. We pay $100 million. If it, you know what I mean? Like send it to you can't get money. Send it to you. And then just get rid of it. Yeah.
So when's your next meeting, did you say?
It's scheduled for the 20.
So the 28th?
I believe it's the 28th. Yeah, recycling meeting scheduled for Thursday the 28th at 6 p.m.
Unfortunately, that's a few weeks away, but at the next meeting, we can share our feelings if they haven't heard from someone else first.
Sure.
Okey-dokey, library board.
We did. We met on December 21st. The accessibility plan is still tabled. It's something that is taking a little bit longer than what it usually does. Budget is being worked on, and we meet again actually tomorrow to discuss it, and possibly the budget that has been presented will be passed. Story time is still online, and it's through the Facebook links. They're still doing curbside pickup, and that's the only access that you can is the curbside pickup to get like a hard copy book. There's a new book challenge, bingo challenge that was launched for 2021. It's listed on the Facebook page and on the website. The e-library online and magazines, all that kind of stuff is still accessible. There's the podcast that is still going on that John Ray is doing that can be found through Spotify. The YouTube link is a little hard to try and find it, so to get through it through Spotify is a little easier. There was a switch over from the L4U to the Insignia software, so if you go to the pod.regionallibrary.com, you will see the link and everything is all brand new, and that, excuse me, launched today. There's also been a new library clerk that was hired, and with that position, the hours were hopeful to be a Tuesday to a Saturday. So that being said, there's a possibility that the library will once again be open on Saturdays. But that is not after tomorrow, that'll be completed, so that's kind of just a heads up that there may be more accessibility.
Cool. Thank you. Scan, I don't believe there's been a meeting recently. No, nothing. Kelsey Planning District, my understanding, we've signed everything now, Jen, and everything is off, waiting for ministerial approval.
What's the timeline on that? Spring.
The minister responsible is in a new one now, because I think it is. So, KSD committee,
Oh, sorry, okay. Oh, we haven't met, there's nothing really pressing the COVID world, so we're just holding on. And we haven't done anything since the last one.
okay. Unfinished business, Kelsey Conservation District.
Yeah, so obviously they made the decision today to be included in this proposal. We did an answer this week. So I included it on this agenda in case you guys wanted to vote resolution. We talked about it now for.
Is there any danger referring it to budget?
Yes. So we have to have this week or we will not. We have to get it.
I'm not sure if I understand why we would do this. As a value to the municipality. Like, I get the RM stuff, but I'm not really sure like what advantage is to spend $12,000 a year on it. And I could be, I just don't know.
You know, like if he, a couple of things that piqued my interest for the green team individuals that could run and see out of the garbage truck, but he did link the two together, like, hey, now that you're part of this watershed group, you're for sure gonna get it. The government's just gonna say, you got it, you're 4 already, you're not gonna get it anymore, because you're part of the watershed for 10 grand a year. And so the education pieces are fine, but
They talked about linking all the environmental projects and stuff, but what do we have within that? Do we want a composting program in the fall? And it sounds like they want us to really be driven by us, where they can help us find some funding. Like I said, I'm really torn about it, I don't really know. I could be convinced, but right now
2 bags of recycling every week, and I have a half a bag of garbage. If I compost it, I don't think I'd have garbage. I don't know if there's a lot of other people who are similar. I'm not saying that, you know, that I'm on the right track for doing anything better than anyone else. But when it comes to zero waste, it saves the life of the landfill. Now,
But you can compost anytime you want.
I could,
Yeah. So being part of the
but I
watershed is not
don't.
gonna.
But I don't.
No, but what I'm saying is though, the fact that he can get you a free bin is not gonna make the difference.
No,
I got a
not
free
for
bin.
me,
I
but for somebody
don't.
else it might.
Yeah.
I could go a
For
step
me, it
further.
wouldn't.
You've seen in other communities where they've had community composting, where they pick it up, they take it to the dump, and they mix it up themselves, and then pick it up for whatever cost or nothing, or whatever. It's a way to save stuff from staying in the dump permanently.
Is there a resolution?
There is a resolution.
We used to have, composting,
Okay,
don't we?
let's get the resolution on
Resolution number 2021-010, moved by myself, second by Councillor Murphy. Whereas the Council of the Town of The Pas has met with the Province of Manitoba regarding expansion of the Kelsey Watershed District to include the Town of The Pas, and whereas the Province of Manitoba has prepared an expansion proposal outlining the terms and conditions of the Kelsey Watershed District to include the Town of The Pas. And whereas Council of the Town of The Pas has reviewed the proposal for the Kelsey Watershed District as prepared by the Province of Manitoba that supports a watershed-based approach to water management in Manitoba. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of The Pas approve the expansion proposal for the Kelsey Watershed District to include the Town of The Pas and supports its continued membership in this program under the authority of the Watershed Districts Act.
it. Okay, so we got a little bit of discussion underway. Was there any other discussion anybody wanted to say about it? Anything on this side of the room?
I think it's important to stake our role in terms of where we are within the community. Yeah, there may not be a huge impact within the town of The Pas. I do believe that they do good work, and I do believe that we are the recipients of some of the work that they do further down the line within the watershed. I'll be voting in support of it, specifically for that reason. Yeah.
Just one last thing, during budget times, when we go to grants to organizations, could be anywhere from CDC to the homeless shelter to whatever, we put everything to the fire, and right now we are really kind of unsure as to what the advantages are, and I'm not willing to get $10,000, $11,000 for it. I'm not really sure. Meanwhile, we are humming and hawing over the $2,000 grant to this one, or the $1,000 to this one, and at this point, I don't even have a grant. Like, where would we even find the $10,000 for it to even fund it? Even though we don't even really not sure what role it is. It's great to be, I'd like to be composting and all this money and all these different things. It's great, but if there's really not I don't, anyway, I'll just stop there. I'm not
Bill or Larry?
Planting of the trees, and we can apply for trees, and we do get green tea and that too. It's a good program in the rural or whatever, but in the urban, I'm not so sure if it is or not. I don't know.
Larry?
I agree. Same thing. I agree 100%. Probably a good thing for the rural community, but it's for the town owners. I don't think money well spent right now.
Any other comments? All right, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Declined. General business, we got a lawyer from Brian.
Yeah, this one's good.
I see that, right? I need,
I didn't make it that first name basis then.
we'll move on to 8.2, material spreader.
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you can,
No.
you can read it, I have some commentary. for it.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
gotta read it first, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So resolution 2021-011, moved by myself, second by Councilor Atkinson. Whereas an invitation to tender was sent to suppliers and an advertisement was placed on the town's webpage, MERS, and then no possible times for the supply and delivery of a wet and dry combo material spreader. And whereas the town received one bid from AEBI Schmidt Canada Incorporated. And whereas the bid from AEBI Schmidt Canada Inc. did not met all the specifications of the tender. Therefore, be resolved that council not accept the bid from AEBI Schmidt Canada and retender for material spreader.
Alrighty, discussion.
Just a little bit of background on here, because this is coming straight to council instead of the committee. We did get an ACAP grant for approximately $100,000 for a spreader for sand and whatnot. The scope, this one wasn't quite met. It wasn't really what we wanted, and it was a little over budget. I'm talking it over with the Wasco guys, and I think we can get a little closer to what we want. And because what we did receive, the only bid didn't fit within the scope. We were thinking of pushing this out again to an expanded scope that would allow at least us to capture a second bid in the same area, give us something comparable. And it just,
Why do you think we only got one?
was
it on Works?
It was on Works, it was published, just a very specific thing, and some of the issues we had in there were service related, and our distance to the places that provide this kind of equipment. They felt they couldn't service it properly for what we were asking. This guy bid anyway, he didn't meet that scope, and move on along. That seems unfair to accept this, considering we specifically asked for something else.
Will it impact operations by
No.
retendering?
No.
This is your replacement.
Correct. And we do have a center there, it's done, but it'll last until we get to the year away.
Isn't there a thing, Graham, that they would take the standard that we have at the town here?
We were gonna do that, but instead they sent in an ACAP application for 100% funding, so we do that. I know we told the Wasco guys a little bit, their cost has been more than what we typically pay for our program, but one of the perks of having them is that they have year after year capture these ACAP grants, we have another one from Beacon we just received as well for $10,000 for the tendering out. And talking with our new rep, we're going to be looking at the rehabilitation of runways now, so which is going to be a very large project.
Sorry?
The runway rehabilitation.
Oh, I thought you said reorientation.
No, so one of the issues, one of the issues with the runways is now, obviously, see, we're doing line patching, we're crack sealing all the time. It's getting to the end of its life. They estimate, somewhere between 3, 4, maybe 5 years, and that's it. So now we need to start looking at how we're going to bring that back up. So a big cost, and we're hopeful that we can submit a good application on that and hopefully get that done.
Any other discussion?
Why did they want something with availability through liquid? Why did they?
I'm not quite sure. He explained it to me, and it was something that fit within the Transport Canada's whatever specific criteria for this use. They weren't going to use it for liquid, but it had to have that capacity. I'm not 100% sure why.
They just jet stole it here.
discussion? So the resolution is to not accept the bid
And retender.
and retender. So if you vote in favor, you're in favoring of not accepting. Okay, so question? All those in favor? Carried. Internal operating budget.
So, resolution 2021-012, moved by myself, second by Councilor Atkinson. Whereas section 63 of the municipal act states that council may adopt an internal operating budget to have an effect only until council adopts an operating budget for the fiscal year. Therefore, be it resolved that council approve the interim budget as follows, which is based on the 2020 budget amounts, and these amounts are subject to change during budget deliberations. So, general government services were $2,265,103. Protective services were $3,044,779. Transportation services were $2,393,892. Environmental services for $498,495. For public health and welfare services for $94,731. For economic development services for $19,200. And recreation and cultural services for $387,067. And fiscal services for $718,079 for a total of $11,421,346.
Alrighty, question? All those in favor? Carried. Citizens period?